For those of you that know who I am and those that are new here, my name is Danielle. My son's name is Gavin. My son died a preventable death from a home birth. I share our story on this channel called Gavin's Story. You can look that up and other home birth stories here right on the channel from different families. I'm about to share a post with you that came from my midwife that I hired for the home birth of my son. Her name is Christy Collins, and she went to somebody who is a midwife, but not really a midwife, that's part of Midwifery Today magazine, named Jan Trent. Jan publicly put this on her page, on her Facebook page. She crowdsourced what was going on, all the red flags and all the things happening with my son at the end of his life. The people that commented on the post were mostly midwives all over the United States. And it went viral. This post went really, really viral. And it's actually why I started speaking out about what happened, because I did not give permission for this post to be shared. I did not give permission for my information to be tossed on the internet for anyone to look at. This post actually was posted just before we rushed to a hospital to try to save his life. So what you're seeing are the final moments of my son's life being crowdsourced by midwives on the internet, on Facebook. What you're going to hear is people that seen the post live, before and after, different sides of what they seen, what was happening. And this post has since been removed and also treated like my son was never a real baby and that this was just a study and it wasn't real. But it was real, and he existed, we exist, and he's not here because of misinformation, because of miseducation. I believe she didn't think we were ever going to see this post. I don't think she ever thought we would ever find the things that she was doing online and saying about us, but we did. So this is a big part of our story that we found out afterwards of what our midwife did to us. I share this in the week of what would have been my son's 8th birthday. The 20th would have been his birthday. Instead, he's not here with us because she didn't want to send us to the hospital, but instead would crowdsource us on the internet. Please feel free to comment with your thoughts, like, share the videos, pass it around. This information needs to get out there so people know this is happening all over the place. I'm just one that people found out about.
What would you do? Primip with accurate dates within a few days who has reassuring non-stress test at 42.1 weeks, as well as reassuring placenta and baby and biophysical profile, but absolutely zero fluid seen. 42.2, redo of biophysical profile, and again, mom has hydrated well, but no fluid seen. Baby's kidneys visualized and normal, and baby's bladder contained normal amount of urine. We're in a state with full autonomy for midwives and no transfer of care regulations past 42 weeks. Absolutely no fluid seen. What do we truly feel are the risks compared to a woman whose water has been broken? And so baby/cord has no cushion there either. Cord compression only, true possibility of placenta being done, although it looks good. Can anyone share stories, opinions? Technology isn't perfect, and I like Gloria LeMay's visualization of a glass tub above you. How much water will you actually see below someone in a bathtub? But my hands feel nothing but baby, who again is doing well and recovers well after sporadic contractions. Mom feels everything is fine and wants to leave things alone.
Jan was a huge piece to the puzzle. Is she owner or is she just editor or something? Like, what the heck is she of like the magazine? Like, because I know she's just part of that somehow.
She's certainly the editor. I don't know if she's the owner of it.
Okay. That's why I was like, she's something. I know she's like a head of Midwifery Today magazine. So she's a big figure with it, which interesting enough, she hasn't attended births for like, I mean, at this point, it's been probably like 30 years or something like that. She's been like well retired. So when she was posting this, she had not done births for like 20 years or something like that. She's just been kind of like a figurehead and like roaming around and hanging out with people and going to conferences and stuff. But she actually doesn't do births anymore because she lives like a celebrity status midwife. Like really, if there's one, that's what it is. Like she kind of lives that life. And she made that very clear when I talked to her too, was that she's like, I don't do births anymore. Like I haven't attended births and whatever. And I was like, then why are people coming to you? And why are you giving advice if you don't know and you're outdated? So, but yes, her post of apparently she private messaged Jan somehow, gave her all that is all the actual post is from Christy. It's not from Jan. Jan didn't write it out. She copied and pasted what Christy wrote, all that stuff. They put it up on her personal page. Like that was her personal thing. How did you find Jan's post? How did you find it? And how did you get involved with the post? If you were involved at all.
Sure. So back then, I was part of a online forum for moms, and we had started off as a spin-off group from a mothering.com forum. So this is going back to the days before Facebook. So there was no Facebook back then, and mothering.com was had a very large, very active online forum. And basically, a bunch of us were just disgusted with what we were seeing there. We were seeing a lot of anti-vax sentiment, a lot of crazy unassisted birthing sentiment, and someone formed formed their own group, and I was a part of that group. So basically, what a lot of us did was basically keep an eye on the MDC forums and bring stuff over to the other board and follow stuff and comment on what went on there. Some of it got a little smirky. Some of it was frankly alarming what we saw brought over. And so that's how I found out about it. Someone had brought the post over to the board from Facebook and posted it there, even though it wasn't on, as far as I know, it wasn't on MDC, but although it probably did eventually get brought over there. And that's how I first became aware of it. And we kind of followed it in real time with just shock. The entire thing, we couldn't believe what was going on, and an overall feeling of helplessness too, because we couldn't do anything about it. We didn't know who you were, Danielle. We didn't know who the midwife was. We didn't know where it was. We knew nothing. And it was like standing there and just watching a literal train wreck happen before your eyes and being 100% helpless to do anything about it.
I have heard a little bit about the other side of people trying to find us and stuff. So,
yeah.
So,
I mean, the first that anyone really knew about who was involved was when Amy Tudor, posted about it. So I was kind of following on the Skeptical OB site and on the online forum at the same time. So I actually wasn't on Facebook at the time, so I didn't have a Facebook. So I wasn't actually following the Facebook post itself.
Which just shows it's bigger because it was on Facebook and then being put on other
went
places
everywhere.
too.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It went very viral. So yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, I was on Facebook, but I don't believe I was even in the Fed Up with Natural Childbirth group. at that time. So it was not until your father posted when it was on Skeptical OB and released with some screenshots, and everyone part who was really, there were several who were followers and frequent commenters that actually were able to comment on the Midwifery Today. I guess it was the Midwifery Today Facebook page or the magazine. I think Jan Tritton. And we are going to I'm going to name names, and you could edit them out if you want, but I don't. If we tell the truth, there's really no recourse if we tell the truth. So that's what happened. So your father posted, and he, I think, was astounded, and I don't know who tipped him off. But typically there were some moles that, followed the Skeptical OB, and they would go back and say, oh, look what that, so-and-so's saying and what lies she's spreading. And I guess maybe that's how he found out about it. He came and he said, I'm this baby's grandfather. And my daughter did not know of that this was being discussed. And he was clearly, I think, stunned from the tone. And it's hard to tell exactly, but he seemed stunned. He seemed open to learning more about what happened, because I'm sure that he was also in shock by the, how a healthy pregnancy suddenly ends up with, in a stillbirth and the loss of his grandson. So then I did go back, and at one time I even had the transcript saved. And I still think I have it, on a floppy somewhere, but I should put it on Google Drive. So it's, always available. And that's how I came to it, and really shocked. And of course, did it surprise me? No. Sadly, I had also, clicked over to mothering.com. I mean, it's just, it's like on Star Wars. It's a wretched hive of pseudoscience and baby deaths, really, and then the false sympathy with all the candles. Somebody would come on and say, oh, well, whatever, baby didn't make it. We don't know what went wrong. And then everyone would say, oh, it happened in the hospital too. And then everybody would just post a candle. I'm sure, Marnie, if you followed on mothering.com, that was, and you'd have pages and pages of people who had been cheerleading all over the place. And then they just post a candle. And there was just never any culpability or saying, I'm sorry. Maybe you should have gone to the hospital. It was never, you should have gone to the hospital. It was always, it would have happened in the hospital too. And I'm sure that you've heard that, Danielle, that it would have happened in the hospital too. And of course, that's wrong. That you would have had extra monitoring after 40 weeks. You would have, and it wouldn't have been for lack of, I guess there's always those demises that do happen in between monitoring and the 40th week, but that would have been a very, very low probability had you been seen in OB. If anything would have looked off, you would have been induced because you're a first-time mom. Probably would have been a good candidate for induction. That's the whole thing, is that cascade of interventions saves babies. So here's the thing that the natural birth world wants you to fear and despise, not just fear, despise the cascade of intervention. Instead, those things save babies when their way does not. So that's my involvement. And then, you joined the comments, I think the next day. And luckily, I'm glad that you felt that everyone there was supportive and did not, there's always a few that will point a finger at the mom, but most know that, the brainwashing that occurs. That your midwife, Christy Collins, just, had you duped and you didn't know any better.
Well, we saw that brainwashing in real time. We saw on the Facebook post that Jan went silent, and then the midwife came back and changed the whole story. The whole story started in the original post with, I'm in an independent state with no, regulations on transfer of care after 40 weeks. That was like literally the first post. And the spin that started when they came back and said, oh no, the midwife wasn't in charge, the patient was under the care of an OB. I mean, we saw that brainwashing and the gaslighting and the backpedaling in real time.
And I'm sure that there were some women on the Facebook group that were telling the midwife, or whatever, the lay birth attendant. She's not a midwife. The lay birth attendant, Christy, to take to the hospital. I mean, there were equally stupid suggestions like drink more water, but there were some. But I believe that I think those were deleted. Isn't that right, Marnie and Ange? That you could see people post, hey, you should, no. And I don't know if they were CNMs or they just were CPMs.
Yeah, there was definitely deleting going on both during and after the fact, until, of course, obviously the entire post was eventually taken down.
So what happened is I was not really active in Facebook at that point in time. I was active on Skeptical OB and just following along, and someone posted the link and the story in the comments of one of the posts, and basically everyone went over to take a look, and they said, here's the situation. And they also said, unfortunately, some of the stuff I really wish I had actually seen, but I trust the reports, was that anyone who reported anything remotely evidence-based, which would have been, they need to go to the hospital right away, period, end of story. That would be the only correct answer to the question, was immediately deleted. So people were like, this is a really concerning situation. Let's see if we can help someone in real time. And it was just shot down left and right in all the, just, oh my gosh, just utterly ridiculous suggestions. It was drink more water, here's homeopathy, are you really sure? I can't remember all of them, but none of them were of any use at all.
Stevia, yeah. Don't forget that one.
Which one?
Stevia, the sugar substitute. Yep.
I'm like, what? Yeah, some of them I didn't even pretend to understand. I'm like, never mind. So that's how I got involved. And then, yeah, I think the next thing we knew is your father's post or message came across, and then other stuff. But yeah, I saw the backpedaling too. It was like, oh no, this isn't how it went down. It's like, no, pretty sure we saw how it went down. But it's the home birth midwife thing, just change it. What happened? Oh, that didn't happen. Here's what happened. It's like, no, but of course, who is actually witnessing whatever goes down at a birth? Maybe 2-3 people. Sure, they can turn around and say this never happened. But when it was online in public and a whole lot of people saw it, it was watching them try to all hand wave it away was just, the whole thing was just kind of horrible. I mean, it was just one kind of, no, you must be kidding. No, people can't really be serious. People can't seriously be saying this. And after another.
So at the time I was following a blog and there was a link on the blog. I'm not sure if I found the post right away. You have to remember at that time I was up with a newborn. I just had a baby, so I was on at odd times. And for some reason, what I was reading scared me more than the usual, oh, it'll be okay post where things do turn out all right. And I kept going back to see if there was an update again and again. And like I said, at odd times, because I was up with a newborn, I was taking care of him, and I would sit at the computer and just kind of see if there was anything I could find. And some of the names that I saw posting, just horrible advice, were names that I'd heard before, and people who had outcomes that were bad. So they've already shown themselves to be people who didn't follow evidence-based care and didn't provide that to their clients. And now they were crowdsourcing all the people who've had these terrible outcomes, giving advice to your midwife through Jan. So it scared me. It scared me more than the usual post. And when I went back and read that Gavin had passed, I think that's when everything changed for me. I had been maybe before more sympathetic about home birth and about home birth midwives. And after reading that, there was no sympathy left in me.